Croeso pawb, welcome all to Literary as Feck with me, Clive Davis, and without Nick because he'll be away for a little bit with personal things. Actually, I'm not supposed to tell you this. Basically, he's been locked up for touching children again. Not too many children, so he'll be back. Don't judge. It is a sickness. He can't help himself. In the interim, I'm surprised he keeps his job as a teacher, really. But anyway, we're keeping that on the low down. Don't want to announce all that. It'd be unfair. In the meantime, we've got some folks to fill in, beginning with, well, who are you over there then?
Well, I'm Mr. Darren Jones. I am.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. A renowned literary scholar.
That's right. Yes.
Yes, I am.
As indeed am I.
Yeah, world renowned.
Yeah.
Not really.
So I asked Darren, hey Darren, what would you like to talk about? You know, what book? And instead of choosing something good, what did you go? Actually, I am kind of curious as to why. So, well, first of all, what did you choose? Let's start with that. What did you choose, Darren, to discuss?
I chose Hero with a Thousand Faces by Joseph Campbell.
Right. First thing that strikes me is it must take him ages to brush his teeth in the morning, this hero.
Well, it does. He's probably just doing a quick swipe on each of them. So a quick, swipe. And but he can't be doing a good job.
No, bad.
He can't be doing a good job of it. He's probably not getting the back of the teeth.
No.
Or even the molars at the back.
They're probably all false by now, really.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah. Well, it doesn't say, it doesn't specify in the title how many teeth it's got. Maybe they're all gummy. Maybe they're all gummy faces.
Speaking of which, this is quite interesting. I was talking to my mother, and this was quite common back in, my mother was born in the early 40s, right? And something I was telling my wife, and she kind of almost refuses to believe this is true. But so back in, well, rural Wales, at least in the early 40s, and my father was the same growing up in the 30s, people didn't keep their teeth very long.
No.
So my mother, I'm sure she won't mind me mentioning this, by the time she was 19, had basically had all her teeth pulled out and replaced with dentures.
Yeah, my mother actually was similar. I don't know what age. But my mother didn't have any teeth by the time I was born. And I was born when she was 27, I think.
Right.
So my mother always had false teeth.
Yeah, same here. I don't remember
complete set of dentures. Yeah.
Both my parents, I remember, side of the bed, glass of water, teeth.
Yeah. But I think maybe that's it might coincide with the fluoridization of water and toothpaste.
Yes, although
so maybe that's the pre-fluoride days.
Yes. People just didn't look after their teeth, right? And do something about it and get expensive, or even if dental work was available, it was fucking get the pliers, basically.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, tie a bit of string to it, put it on the doorknob and slam the door.
Yes.
And then to kill the pain, get a little cotton bud, which is exactly what I had when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Get a little cotton bud, dip it in some whiskey, and stick the cotton bud in the gap where your tooth used to be.
And it's funny how times have changed so quickly. People probably aren't believing us, but no, because we weren't born that long ago.
No.
Like 76, I'm 79.
Yeah.
And I remember that. I remember one time when I had a tooth problem, pull it out, and bit of string, door, pull it.
Yeah. No, that's exactly. Well, I remember trying to do that and failing a couple of times as an adult. But I remember my dad doing it to me as a kid.
Yeah, and it wasn't this wasn't child abuse. This was
regular. No, this is child care in the early 80s.
Yeah.
They were looking after us.
Yeah, they were. And look how well we turned out.
Exactly. Although what I would say, I did have a few years ago, probably about 10 years ago, I had a toothache. In the middle of the night. I just woke up with a toothache. And I took some painkillers and they didn't work. And then in desperation, I went downstairs and had a very small glass of whiskey. And I swilled it all around my mouth, and it worked. And I went back to sleep.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah. So whiskey does, and I hate whiskey, but whiskey does actually work for toothache.
It's always good to have another excuse to drink whiskey, I think. Because
well, I hate whiskey, so I've never got an excuse to drink whiskey. But
I'm not keen. Never got the taste for it.
Well, no, I must have told you the story, which I will illuminate the listeners of one of the podcasts with another time. But when I was 15, I managed to drink a whole bottle of whiskey, whole big bottle of whiskey, and got my stomach pumped, and I haven't been able to drink it ever since.
Yeah, that'll do it.
But there's an amusing tale to that where I pull a knife on a policeman and get hauled away by my friend in an ambulance. Quite a fun story.
Just as a little trailer, which, because I'm trying to figure this out, which of the other shows might this turn up in? Because we don't do a true crime podcast yet.
Well, I think last time on either Shaw Scope or Not in Shaw Scope, I did tell the story of how I tragically avoided a foursome when I was 17.
Yes, that one, yeah.
So that's probably where it's going to come out.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're just going to wait for it to organically.
It'll come out, and unless you want to, ask me to tell the story another time.
Well, what I'll do is I'll write it down. Because I don't think we have the time today, unfortunately. Because I think
exactly that's why I was saying.
I want to hear it properly told. I don't want the version. So no. But definitely want to hear that. So yes, unless it'll come out organically in a discussion about Empress or something.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
So anyway, so you did choose Joseph Campbell's The Hero of a Thousand Faces, a very well regarded book, and as soon as you suggested a few things that wouldn't quite work for various reasons, and then when you mentioned it, I thought, oh, okay, perfect, because it's one of those things I never have read, should get around to reading at some point. I thought, oh, this is the excuse, and I always had I don't know why, I had a slight suspicion. I don't know where this came from, but just an instinct that I wouldn't like this book, but I based on nothing other than perhaps because George Lucas likes it.
Yeah. Well, you hate George Lucas anyway.
Say again.
Or Star Wars. You hate George Lucas anyway. That's the thing. Star Wars.
So So anything, because you're a bit more tolerant of the Star Wars universe, aren't you?
I quite like Star Wars, but it's I'm not a big Star Wars fanboy,
Right? No, we're not, because otherwise you wouldn't get an invite on here. No. Yeah. You'd be bad. But so I thought, oh great, this is an excuse. So that's but why did you choose it of all things that you could have chosen? I'm quite curious.
Well, I don't read a lot for pleasure, right? So I
read for pain and to torture myself.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Do you not? I always struck you as a man who does, or is that something in a previous life?
No. I tend to read stuff for various other communities and stuff I'm involved in. I tend to have to read stuff related to that. So it's it's not work, but it's kind of community stuff. And it's around folklore, mythology and that sort of stuff.
Right.
So I tend to read stuff, or my reading list tends to be, 7 or 8 books long. And the 9th book is one that I want to read for pleasure.
I see.
And they're usually all around sort of folklore, mysticism, all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
So more often than not, I find that I don't actually have time to read because I've got other books that I need to read on a deadline in front of it.
I see. So your allotted reading time is taken up with a lot of stuff that you're reading.
So I do read a lot, but exactly, yeah. And turns out this was no fucking different. And I could have chosen a lovely novel.
Yes. You could have chosen what was that fucking book they made us read? Maybe when I was in Graig, CCT Graig in Llanelli. Oh yeah, for English, one of our teachers insisted that we read Cider with Rosie.
Oh yeah.
She was as well. She was twee as fuck.
Oh, she was horrible. Yeah, because we had the same teacher. You were in a different year to me. What was her name? Edwards, I think.
Yeah, because there was three. There was the cool one, the angry
Yeah,
one, and there was
yeah,
a bloke who lived at home with his mum.
yeah,
He was who was also all right. I quite liked him. And
yeah.
then
He was my classics teacher. Yeah,
yeah, the twee,
yeah,
and who I got chucked out of her class once. Actually, she'd had enough of me.
yeah.
Yeah,
She hated me as well because she tried to ruin my results day.
oh,
Right. So I was having some trouble at home with my family at the time, and I just wasn't concentrating on my work, and I was kind of heading towards failing my A levels.
right.
And she kept telling me, Darren, you need to back up your ideas, good boy.
Right.
You need to sort yourself out. You're just going to fail,
Hmm.
right? And she sidled up to me at results day, right, with this smug grin, and said, "Well, how did you do then, Darren?" And I said, "Actually, I got 2 C's, which gets me into university.
Right.
Fuck you."
Ah, nice. Good. Yes, I don't think I
So
ever
anyway, yeah,
said "fuck you" to her, but I would have liked to. But yeah, she was very
yeah. Well, it was the last time I was ever going to see her, so you know.
Yeah, she was very sanctimonious. Everything about her rubbed me and clearly we rubbed her the wrong way.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I was quite pleased to be chucked out of her class actually once. I was like, that sounds about right.
Yeah, definitely.
I think
anyway,
I got a C as well. I think it's the only one of my things I passed. Maybe.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah. Well, she hated me because I could do it. Not that I'm bragging, but because this is a stupid way to do education. Because I was always quite good in English class.
Yeah.
Of not reading the whole text and blagging.
Yeah, same. I mean, as you know, I spent most
of
my time there going off to get stoned rather than going
to yeah. But I would always get like straight A's from hardly reading any of the material, and she hated that.
Right.
So anyway, but I did actually read all of this.
I skimmed portions, but I did make a concerted effort to engage with the whole thing, which is more difficult than you might think. So why did you choose it again? You didn't actually.
Well, yeah. So I've got a friend who might even watch this, and I do apologize. Friend who will remain nameless.
Right. Fred.
But
that's fucking Fred, isn't it?
That Fred, yeah. Fred in the bike leathers. So my friend is really into Joseph Campbell. And brings Joseph Campbell up regularly, and is really, really into the hero's journey.
Okay.
Right. And I don't think I'm overstretching when I say applies it to some of his life. And whenever there's an opportunity to come up where Joseph Campbell could possibly be relevant on a tangent, my friend will discuss Joseph Campbell.
This is your mate Machiste, the bodybuilder.
That's it. So I'd never read it until, or read any of it until probably about a year or two ago. So I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to read Joseph Campbell because I've got the Cliff Notes. Joseph Campbell. Everyone knows what the Cliff Notes. Hero's Journey malarkey is. Monomyth thing is, right?
So you were similarly like me in so much as I should probably read this one day.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so we all know what Hero's Journey is. We all know that there are a load of, that Star Wars is inspired by it, that there's a lot, actually the superhero films tend to follow that template reasonably closely. So, from a cinema point of view, it's interesting to read, but also from a kind of, because I'm into mythology and that side of stuff. So it ticks all of my boxes, but having read the Cliff Notes version of the Monomyth of the Hero's Journey, I on principle I completely disagree with this approach based on how I approach mythology, history, sociology, anthropology.
Yeah, oddly enough, I agree with you. I disagree, but oddly enough, my disagreement with his kind of fundamental take on it is actually the least of my problems with it.
As a book, yeah, for sure.
My problem more than that is it is somehow he's collected some of the most exciting stories ever told and sucked all the life and vitality out of it.
Yeah.
And you have one of the most boring books I think I've ever struggled through.
Oh, it's fucking terrible. Terrible book. Probably about 2 years ago, I thought, fuck it, I've got to just sit down and read it, right? And I sat down to read it, gave up after about, I don't know, 100 pages.
Yeah.
And it just sat on my shelf ever since, until we had this discussion about me coming on here and having a discussion about it. And I'd kind of forgotten, I remember finding it a bit dry and then just put it down and just sort of, sorry, I'm going to move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So in a way, I am grateful that I've actually had now the full Joseph Campbell experience.
Right.
Because it means that my hatred of Joseph Campbell can now be backed up by direct experience and knowledge of the text.
Yes, I know.
But So I mean, I suppose we need to give people a thrust of what if they don't know Joseph Campbell, if they've never heard of this before.
Well, just to back up as well, I would, if I hadn't been obligated to talk about it, I probably would have given up as well, because I just started glazing over, and it's not that it's difficult to read. It's so dry, and I don't know quite how he does it, because I was thinking of like comparisons like The Golden Bough, or another great example is I've read like Robert Graves's 2 volumes on the Greek myths, but he also goes off and ties it off into
and the White Goddess Goddess is a good comparison with this as well.
But the thing, what's interesting to me is, for instance, the 2 volume, the Robert Graves. What's interesting about that is that those 2 volumes don't even go out of their way to present it other than it's almost a pure info dump. But that manages to be more interesting as a narrative than this, which ties a narrative, right?
But the problem, and that brings us to the issue, right? And it's Campbell's approach, right? It's not particularly, and what surprised me about the way Campbell is writing this, it's not particularly academic.
No,
right?
No.
He brings a lot of Freudian Jungian psychology into it, right? Which I also hate.
Yes. Yeah.
But he's not approaching it in the same way as, say, Fraser in The Golden Bough approaches stuff, because this is an analysis of myth, right? This is he's got a sort of analytical hat on, and yet it's not really an academic analysis of myth, right? He seems to be approaching it from a kind of mystical direction, where he talks about, well, we've all got to align ourselves with the hero's journey and meditate on this stuff, and then we can all,
isn't he?
And then we can all undergo this initiation through the Jungian dark night of the soul, and then emerge as better people, and then we can reincarnate. So and you'd think that would give it a little bit of an edge over an academic.
Yeah, it doesn't work as
analysis.
It doesn't work as a populist book either.
No, because it's dense. It's so dense, and you need to have at least a small grasp of Jungian and particularly Jungian and also Freudian psychology. You need to have a little bit of your head around that.
Yeah.
And also, actually, you need to have read a little bit of Fraser, or a little bit of Robert Graves, or a little bit of something academic around myth and ancient societies as well.
Actually,
because there's a lot of shorthand in it.
Yeah, because I had read some of that stuff. I didn't actually think about it. Actually, you're quite right. It is a bit. It does throw you in without. It's strange, isn't it? as long-winded as it is, it also forgets to place you in some very basic context. So you're I don't know quite how he's done it. It's I don't quite, and the bringing the psychoanalysis in is automatically a problem in terms of dating it as well, isn't it? Like, you wouldn't write a book from this perspective because those disciplines kind of been separated out a bit more.
Well, I think no. I mean, I think there are still people writing today in the same field, bringing psychoanalysis, particularly Jung, into myth. There are still people doing that. Although I think that the academic field is very much moved away from that. Discredited. But there are still Well, I'm not even sure. I'm not sure it's been discredited. I just think it was. I think it was a fad in the 30s, 40s, 50s. Yeah,
it's kind of like in the same way as.
Excuse me.
I mean, not to totally derail. I mean, you can still read. If you go back, you can still read Freud and Jung and get stuff out of it. But in the same, people don't necessarily take the teachings of R.D. Laing as gospel anymore. I mean, there's interesting stuff in there, but there's also a lot of problematic stuff in there as well. So the thing with this, again, though, you mentioned, but again, that wouldn't necessarily be a problem. I could read it and discount the hippie shit and all of that, and as long, because the thing is, as well as because the thing is, it could work as a take that stuff with a pinch of salt, but it could work as a good entry point in basically giving you a list of some really interesting stories and snippets of those stories. It could work almost like an anthology or something, like a starting. But somehow it even fucks that up. Like, it doesn't even work. Like, if you went through it and just wrote down all the things like, you'd still get bored and glazed over. And I don't know how has he read. Some of them are direct translation from they're from other translations, so they should at least survive intact. But somehow in his little gumbo that he's made, he's tainted everything, I think.
Well, but the thing is as well, is because he's, in my view, because he's trying to fit everything in, because he's trying to apply every myth on, well, any myth. Right. And this is the thing. It's not specifically myths about demigods, right? Myths about, earthly born children of deities in world mythology, right? That would be one thing. Yeah. But it's not. He's trying to apply cosmogonies and all different varieties of myth to this one monomyth fucking diagram that you've got to wait until halfway through the book to even get to, right?
Yeah, I was half expecting him to tie it into like the Mr. Men books at one point. Like,
fucking hell, I know. Yeah, but this is the thing. Because, in my view, because he's trying to apply all these disparate mythologies to his one theory. He's having to abbreviate the stories. Right,
he's cherry picking as well, is what he's doing.
Well, of course, he's cherry picking, absolutely. But he's coming in halfway through a story.
Yeah.
Right. So in there, I can't quite remember which one it is now, but in there's one from the Mabinogion, right, and the Greek stuff. Of course, I know the Greek stuff really well, but there's one in there from the Mabinogion. Oh, it's the escape one. What's it bloody called? The Guion Bach, and where he turns into a salmon and a and that one.
Yeah.
Taliesin. Yeah. And
I know that as well. A fine cinema in.
Well, it is.
Where is that?
Carmarthen, isn't it? Oh no, it's not.
No, it's not Carmarthen.
It's in.
It's somewhere between places.
Gossainen,
because you can't get there with a car.
No, that's it. Yeah.
But a good art house cinema.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, he does that, and I know that myth really well. But he's starting in the fucking middle. And more often than not, he's not giving you the end of the story.
Right.
He's just waiting for, he's waiting until the myth hits one of his, 8 or 9 themes.
Yeah.
And then bang, proved it. And then on to the next one.
Yeah.
And the other thing is he's zipping around world mythologies so much, right? So he's got an Irish myth on one page, and then he's got 3 sentences explaining how it's the monomyth, and then he's into some Inuit story,
right,
that's completely unrelated and completely different, and is relating it to another bit of his monomyth. Right. And then he'll try and put 2 disparate ones, 2 disparate stories together from literally across the world, say China and Native American myths. And he'll just smash them together and say, yeah, definitely, yeah, that's Heros Gamos, that's the son, you know, that and that's exactly the same as Oedipus and
and that's it. Jobs are good done. Like there's no further, no elucidation as to how it could be, or I mean, even Zippy from Rainbow said this was too Zippy, I think.
Yes.
As an example, another example of a book which is similarly, you know, semi-discredited or not taken that seriously by proper historians, but is full of interesting ideas and is a fun read, is not Myths, but I don't know if you've ever read that. It was like again a bit of a fad book for a while. Guns, Germs, and Steel.
No.
Which is a very interesting. I forget the writer's name now, but it's basically about why human development started at different points in different parts of the world, regarding things like, you know, climate, or, you know, basically where the places in latitude, or what grows there, and, you know, for why certain empires turned up in certain countries and didn't, and, you know, and it's very, very, very interesting, and he ties it all together quite nicely. Now, he's not a trained historian. I think he's actually a linguist or something. Jared Diamond, that's his name, Jared Diamond. And people have gone in and picked it all apart, and he tells, he's got some interesting theories, and it ties together nice, especially it ties together in a very non-judgmental kind of PC way that you know doesn't you know, kind of doesn't allow for any race to be better than another. It's all dependent, you know. And that's all very, you know, that's all very nice and cuddly and all that. But historians have kind of gone in and picked it apart and just said, well, yeah, could be a nice theory, but you don't actually have evidence to back it up. That said, though, that book is a really interesting read, and it's got some reading, and it's I think that's what this book should be, is like that. Like, yes, you can discredit it, and you know, if you're proper, so you can go in, but still, you can at least enjoy the sweep of reading it. And again, it's a big book like this one. You know, it's not a short book. It took me a while to read it, and even as I was reading it, and I'm not trained in any way, shape, or form. I was, hang on now, but I still really enjoyed reading it. Not so this.
No, this was fucking torture, right? But we have to recognize as well. There are people who love this book, who fly through this book, who eat and drink this fucking book while they're reading it.
Yes.
I don't understand these people.
I don't either. One of them is even your mate, right?
And one of them is my friend. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I respect his views on most things around folklore and mythology as well.
Right.
But this I have to disagree with.
Maybe we should have had him on to see if he could explain. Well, ask him if he fancies. We can always do a follow. Not like a, you know, I'm not like an ambush thing where we're like,
no.
I'm genuinely interested. Number one, how you stop your eyes from glazing over. I mean, and more, you know, just what is it about this that you find? Because obviously these people, even if they weren't necessarily buying it all, clearly these people are enjoying reading, actually enjoying.
They're enjoying the experience. So I mean, so the other thing. So okay, that's our view on the reading experience. I completely disagree with his methodology and his conclusions. So there's nothing I agree with in this book.
No.
Right? What you said earlier on, I'm trying to come up with positives. So what you said earlier on regarding, you know, it's kind of an anthology of world mythology around some themes.
Well,
it is useful for that.
It should.
Yeah, no. But what I'm saying is, it can be useful for that. So before the internet, if I wanted to look at some Inuit mythology,
right,
I could go to that and I could get something from there, right?
Yes.
It's written with a bias, and I love reading new myths that I've never read before. I like reading, and there were some in there, particularly the Native American stuff, particularly the Inuit stuff. And some of those stories were very interesting.
Right.
Yeah, but as I say, curtailed and written with, repeated with an agenda,
Yes. Yeah, no, don't get me wrong.
It's useful for that.
Yeah, I didn't approach this with like, I know all that. It wasn't that so much. It was just when I did recognize something, and it was presented in a form that, well, that's not the thought. It's not so much that I disagree with his but it was just he takes certain things that I've read in other contexts, or just read straight up, and managed to just suck all the life out of them, and
that's because
if he's doing that stuff with the stuff I know, then I can't really trust him.
No,
with the other stuff.
No, and again, it's because he's writing with an agenda. It's because he's saying that the descent of Inanna is the same as the birth of the Buddha when he sat under a tree, which is also the same as Theseus and the Minotaur, which is also the same as the Aztec Sun King. And it's not. It just fucking isn't.
No, I mean the end game there is it sounds ludicrous, but it's not that far away from Well, this book has a word in it, and this book has as well.
Yeah, I know, right?
Same thing, isn't it?
But again, and the problem is that I studied to a certain degree. I did an undergraduate degree in classics, in classical studies, so. I can't claim to be an academic in any way on any of this stuff.
So just my credentials, I have watched Jason and the Argonauts many times, which is same thing, I think.
It's exactly the same. Yeah. Clash of the Titans, even better.
Yeah.
Don't get me fucking started on Clash of the Titans and mythology. Anyway.
Okay.
Because it's wrong.
Yeah, I wouldn't even bring up the new one or the recent one.
No. I'm talking about the old one, which I love. Okay. I love that film. Anyway,
is there no mechanical owl in there?
No, I'm not talking about the mechanical owl. Of course, Boo Boo is in the ancient.
Well, that's what I thought.
Of course,
even Joseph Campbell has a whole chapter on Boo Boo.
Chapter on Boo Boo. Boo Boo as the crowned and conquering child, Sun King. Yeah. So, So I've done this. So I've done a fair bit of reading on mythology, both for kind of to educate myself when I was much younger, on an academic basis, but also I get into and I read mythology for pleasure.
Yeah, right. So, I mean, I've read a couple of versions of Mabinogion and stuff like that, and it's fun. It's good.
And one of my pet subjects is initiations, right, in the ancient world, and how they're applied to some modern groups these days. Initiation, right? I'm all about the initiation, and I understand, and I frequently read about things like descent myths and Dark Night of the Soul, and how they interact with each other. And there is an argument to be made that some mythologies can be useful to reflect upon if one is undergoing a Dark Night of the Soul kind of event in your personal life, right? Yeah, so I agree with that, right? I agree with that notion. However, that my main problem with Joseph Campbell it is this reductionist approach.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think that saying that the descent of Inanna is the same as the crucifixion of Christ is the same as Theseus and the Minotaur, right? That is offensive, right? Number one, to the cultures that they come from, some of which are dead, right? And you need to preserve those cultures. But secondly, it's like you were talking about sucking the life out of the myths.
Yeah.
When you try to boil them down in a big crucible and make them all the same as each other,
yeah,
you burn off what makes that myth unique.
exactly. And
so,
to your point, that's probably why I don't like the Star Wars films, because that is the thing George Lucas has taken, and these superhero films it is the specifics that are interesting. Those are the bits.
Yeah,
I think anyway, because there is only so many ways you can tell a, good versus evil or something like that, or an underdog story, for example.
Yeah.
That's not. I mean, a child might not tell you that in an erudite way, but even a child recognizes that.
Yeah.
I don't think it's particularly clever.
No.
To show this
but
off.
we're not doing our job either if we don't actually talk about film, which is how most people come to Joseph Campbell.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it is,
and actually probably via George Lucas.
Yeah.
But the monomyth, the idea of the monomyth has been so wholesale taken by Hollywood that now you've got unusual births, unusual upbringings, a big battle that the hero loses, and then the hero falls into a deep depression,
right?
Or is deeply injured, and then has to climb out, and then has to win the battle, and then they become a deity.
Yeah,
right. That is every Marvel film, right, that exists. That's all the Star Wars films, and that's even a lot of kind of mainstream Hollywood kind of drama films.
Even. Yeah, well, even some of the stuff we like kung fu films, for example, follow them. Yeah,
absolutely.
But the thing is, the difference is right. The thing is, for this, there's a reason that these tales are retold, right? And the reason is, like we said, organically you fall into these. But I'm not saying that doesn't happen. But the thing is, to actively try and follow the pattern is absurd, because it undercuts your theory anyway. That well, if that's the way the story is gonna go, then that's the way the story is gonna go. But to try and ape it is like, number one, why are you even bothering? And to your point, it takes out all the interesting byways that you get there via your culture, via your beliefs, or via your experiences. To tear it down is I don't understand what the
Well, it's like saying, isn't it? It's like a florist, right? All of a sudden deciding that all flowers are the same, right? I'm just going to snip off the heads, and because they're all the same. There you go. Yeah. So I don't know how much else I've got to say about this.
I don't either, because the thing is, it's not that, and this is going to sound really arrogant, it's not that I think it's beneath me to tackle it point by point, but it would be so exhausting to take action and try and tackle each thing, and I'm not up for that, really. Like I said, even before I read the thing, I somehow had this instinctive feeling that I wouldn't be getting on with it, but I didn't let that color my judgment going into it.
No,
I thought, well, loads of people like this, so there's a good chance I might enjoy. I might have problems with it, but I might enjoy. I kind of expected to at least enjoy the reading experience.
And a lot of that is his style, because I read, right. I read for my other stuff that I do in life. I read a lot of books written in a very non-academic way around mythology and folklore that are written in a very similar way to say that I don't know that Jason undergoes an initiation when he has to go through the Clashing Rocks, or when he travels to the underworld, or and I can buy that because it's not analytical,
right?
So Joseph Campbell, I think, is trying to straddle two worlds, right? He's trying to straddle this mystical hippie shit, right, or mystical pseudo occult shit, actually, because there's all sorts of Kabbalah that he's bringing in. There's all sorts of various different bits and bobs he's bringing in, and some sort of academic rigor,
Mm.
right? And he's, to my mind, he is completely failing on the academic rigor. If he'd actually gone full mystical on it, I might have enjoyed it.
Yeah, and also it's the didacticism as well, like you said. So the thing, what I like about Robert Graves, for example, is Robert Graves is marinated in this stuff, but still he'll mention something, and then he'll mention something else, and it's almost like, oh, isn't it interesting, by the way, that over in this part of the world they have this, and it's a little bit sitting there, and then lets it lie.
Yeah.
Doesn't fucking ram it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, because Joseph Campbell is saying that, I'm trying to come up with an example, that the myth of the descent of Inanna into the underworld and her relationship with Ereshkigal is exactly the same as Oedipus fucking his mother and pulling his eyes out.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I think your florist stem analogy was excellent. I shall actually be stealing that and using that. That works very, very well.
Yeah. And that's the thing. He's not there. There's no room for negotiation in Campbell. Right? Campbell is dealing in absolutes. This myth from this bit of the world is definitely to do with Freud, right?
Yeah.
This is definitely the collective unconscious, and not the sea that the world was born from. Right. It's definitely the collective unconscious.
The Freud and the Jung stuff I actually found the most problematic. Like the rest of it would be, but to drag that in as well, it really anchors it to a time and place. Just seems further and further away. The other surprising omission, largely, there's not much about it in here at all, which is actually kind of surprising, especially when, so me and Nick have been talking on another show, we've been talking about Mesopotamian myths and things like Gilgamesh and the flood myth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting that the flood myth, for example, that's just one example of several from around the world that date, when they put the Bible together.
Did you read Irving Finkel on that?
Yes.
Good. Good.
But the thing is, that would be one of the stronger examples that he could use for some of this, is to point out how a lot of ancient Eastern histories were kind of retold in biblical form, right?
Yeah.
Fits into his, surprising how he doesn't go near that much, does he?
But that's because it doesn't fit. So particularly,
I'm sure Joseph Campbell could find a way to fit it in if he wanted to.
Okay, I fucking challenge you to make for example, the flood myth and the last couple, for example, because I know Finkel talks a lot about that.
Yeah.
How I challenge you to fit the flood myth, right, which is not universal but very, very common around Europe and Asia. I challenge you to fit that in, and it's obvious that, as you said, he's cherry picking. He's cherry picking the bits that have hooks to hang his theory on.
I bet you could. I bet you maybe someone's already did this. Maybe there's an online Campbell generator where you just put something in and it goes away for 5 minutes, smokes a spliff, and comes back and basically, what it is you stop thinking in abstract, flood is actually the,
flood of the menstrual waters. And Noah is the erect penis of the sun.
There we go.
And the mother is the dove.
There you go. See, you've done it. Campbell's obviously right, Darren. We've just undermined our entire... Damn it.
I take it all back.
Yes.
I take it all back.
You are a genius, George Lucas. I've kind of had enough about talking about this.
Yeah, I have, actually. I did about half an hour ago, to be fair.
Yes.
But we have to do it. We have to do it. It has to be done.
We've had
and I apologise for inflicting Joseph Campbell on you.
No. I mean, to be honest, it was kind of quite the lesson, actually. I mean, I've had a few examples of my life. In general, you might like something, your mileage might vary, but let's say 80 to 90% of the things that are considered canon or classic even if you don't get on with them, they turn out to be worth your time, worthwhile. But
yeah.
now and again, you do come across a sacred cow which is begging to be is mooing at you to tip it over.
Yeah.
And I think this is one of them. And you know, we're not, I mean, there are plenty of people, if you go, you know, type in Joseph Campbell boring or Joseph Campbell overrated.
Oh, yeah.
You'll find plenty of Reddit threads by people much more learned than us, pointing out exactly why it should be put out of pasture, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, that's our little twopence worth. And no, thank you for number one for filling in the short notice, and also, you know, I think this was a worthy thing worth having a bit of a chat about.
Yeah, it might have been nice to have someone actually defend Joseph Campbell on you. You're right, actually, with my friend.
Yeah.
But,
well, like I said, if
they can do it in the comments, we can have a little, you know, we can have a little argument in the comments, can't we?
Or depending how passionate your friend is, he's more than welcome to come on, and I promise, you know, we will be civil about it. You know, we're not out to, you know, we're not. If it's your thing, fair enough. And we tried, but it's no.
We're not. Yeah, you notice there were no ad hominem attacks on either the people who like Joseph Campbell nor Joseph Campbell himself. But Joseph Campbell is definitely a cunt.
Yes, absolutely, and he's smelly.
Oh, he is. Yeah.
Ugh. Plus, as well, we should mention, because it sounds, I think people may that we didn't collude. I think we both went. I actually had until we had a little text exchange by the time we were recorded. I half expected Darren to maybe actually I would have been surprised, but I maybe actually get on with this book and explain to me why I should as well. But so I had no idea that we were on.
No, we did not collude at all.
No. Anyway,
good.
Yes, until next time, where someone else will be in Darren's place. Although, of course, no one can take Darren's place, and neither can they take Nick's place. The kiddie fiddling little bastard.
I hope they're not too bad to you on the inside, Nick. Sorry.
No, I hope they are. Knock a bit of sense into him.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah. But he's you know, at the same time as being a deviant, he is quite delicate as well, isn't he?
He's going to be furious when he's
You started it. I only came in at the end.
You jumped on with relish. All right. Cheerio then.
Bye-bye.